Hello guys, welcome back onto the Dutch couch. I want to speak about an absolute icon of British football, a genius, a character, a personality of the like I don't think we'll ever see again. Brian Clough. Unbelievable man, unbelievable manager, and like I said just now, unbelievable character. I mean, this is someone who said exactly what he thought every time. To whoever he thought it, he would put his point across. Club owners, he would slaughter. Players, he would put in their place. Other managers he'd battle with. This guy was just cutthroat, brutal, and that's what I loved about him. Unbelievable. I mean, this was a man who was denied the chance to manage England. And in my opinion, it was down to the fact that he was outspoken. He wasn't a yes man. He would say what he wanted to. And I think the powers above, the powers that be at the FA, were actually frightened of this guy. They didn't know how to handle him. He was definitely qualified for the job, and I think he would have been a great England manager. But they didn't give him the opportunity on them grounds. They were shit scared of him. That shows you a lot about this man and his presence and aura, right? I mean, this is a guy who, when asked about being a manager, he said, "I don't think I'm the best manager, but I'm definitely in the top one." So for me, that tells me this guy's got a fucking, first and foremost, a great sense of humour, a great personality, but a massive ego. This guy fucking knows he's good. And that's another thing that I love about him. You're going to really say that, you say that a lot on this video. I love it about him. That's amazing, mate. This is also a guy, this was actually funny when I watched this. This was a guy who actually would throw right and left hooks and slap fans who pitch invaded. He did it. The footage is out there. He wouldn't take no shit. Even if fans overstepped the mark and got on that pitch, he would fucking lose his rag and beat them. Like, he would literally manhandle them and throw them off the pitch personally. Again, he didn't give a shit. This guy knew he had power. He wasn't afraid to use it. I mean, he even made sure that players knew their place. I remember reading about Teddy Sheringham in a book on his first day at Forest after he'd been signed there. Big signing at the time, Teddy Sheringham. He signed and he saw Brian Clough in the hall or whatever, or at training pitch or whatever it was, I can't remember. He said, "Morning, Edward," Clough did. Teddy sort of turned around and said, I like to be called Teddy. I like to be called Teddy, boss." And Clough turned around and said to him, "What's your name on your birth certificate?" And Teddy said, "Edward." And he said, "Oh, okay then. Morning, Edward." He let him know, in no uncertain terms, "I'm going to call you that. And if you don't like it, it's tough shit. Because I'm the governor here. And I'm letting you know early on that I'm the boss and I'm the big dog." And I love that about him too. He wasn't scared to play. The players didn't have the power they have now. Managers had a lot more power back then. And this guy let the players know that. Brilliant. I mean, he was even asked about players having an opinion and having a discussion with the manager on different opinions of the game and what have you. And this was his response. He said, "We'll have a chat for 20 minutes. If a player's got an opinion, we'll talk for 20 minutes. And then we will both decide that I'm right." So in the end, he'll let you talk, but in the end, you know that he's the big dog again. What he says goes. And I don't think in the modern football, we've got enough of these type of managers. The players have so much power now, financially, contractually. This wouldn't happen again. I don't think this sort of thing would happen again. The managers had so much power back then. And Clough in particular knew how to turn the screw with his power. He knew. I mean, I've spent countless nights over the last few years watching YouTube videos, documentaries, interviews about him, interviews of him. There's so many one-liners I could tell you, but it'd be like a 6-hour video. What I would say, if you haven't had the chance to, go and watch as much footage as you can of this man, especially the younger fans, like football supporters, because you probably would well, I know for a fact you will never have seen anybody like this. The older ones will explain to you, ask your parents or whatever, they will explain to you how special this guy was. But the younger ones, please go and take a look. I urge you to have a look. You won't be disappointed. This guy will teach you a lot, I think, and give you so many laughs as well. But knowledge, great knowledge. But as a player, I mean, I think he gets overlooked as a player because he retired early due to a bad injury. But his goal scoring record at Middlesbrough and Sunderland was incredible. I mean, 267 goals in 296 games. Now that tells me that this guy was an unbelievable centre forward, first and foremost, and a great finisher. Great finisher. I'm led to believe he was fucking really strong on that pitch. But obviously he retired early, like I just said. Career-ending injury. He spent 2 years at Hartlepool as a young manager before he got a nice little job at Derby County. I mean, they were in the second division at the time. 1969, he wins the second division title with this team. They're not a much fancied team from what I'm led to believe. But he takes them into the top division. So the second division for the younger fans is now the Championship. The first division is what you see as the Premier League now, right? So he takes them up from the second division into the top division. Within three years, he wins the top division with this unfancied team. And by his side, he's got his right-hand man, Peter Taylor. Now, this guy's crucial. This guy is so crucial, and I don't think sometimes he gets the credit that he deserves in this relationship and the success. These two together are a match made in heaven, right? They sit in that dugout, working their magic with these players at Derby. In 1973, they reached the semi-final of the old European Cup, which is now, to the younger, it's the Champions League now. So within 3 years, he's gone from the second tier of English football. Now he's in the semi-final of the European Cup with an unfancied team. He's bought some fucking fantastic players along the way. Now they're pushing. They're pushing in Europe now to win top honours there. So that takes them going, right? But old Cloughie, the ego that he had, and the opinions that he had, he would fall out with the chairman. I think he fell out with his chairman quite a few times, to be honest. But I think on the side of the chairman, he hated the fact that Cloughie was so popular with everybody. And apparently he hated the fact that he was doing stuff outside of football. He was doing punditry, stuff like that. He was doing it outside of Derby County. I think that really annoyed the chairman. And I think he wanted to be, from what I'm led to believe, the popular one. But Cloughie was the man. Cloughie was the big dog. He was going to be the popular one. He was the one the fans saw as the hero, right? Rightly so. This man and Peter Taylor equally worked their magic at Derby. Absolute magicians. Genius. What they done there with a team from the second division. But it all fell foul at Derby and he left there. I'll tell you what, he went to Brighton. Didn't go there. Didn't go very well there. He dropped down. He went 12 wins in, I think it was 32 games. So it didn't really go well there. And in 1974, things took a really strange turn here because he went to Leeds United. And this is a club where he had openly come out and slaughtered their tactics. He literally said, Don Revie, the manager, and that Leeds team that he was going to take over, had won trophies with dirty tactics, cheating. So he was on it. To be honest, when he went to Leeds in 74, it wasn't going to go well. I think he went there, I don't know, maybe a bit disillusioned how he was going to, I don't know, he expected something different. I think he maybe expected to go in there being the big man that he was and the powerful manager that he was and stamp his authority there. Those players were having none of it. Billy Bremner and all these, they had none of it. They alienated him. Poor league form. I think they was 19th in the division. And they were one of the top teams back then. They were 19th in the division. Shit run of form. 44 days, he was sacked. He was out of there. And I'll be honest, I think that must have smashed his ego a little bit. That must have battered his ego, surely. As much of an ego he had and how much he believed in himself. He probably believed in himself that much, he thought he was going to go in there and stamp his authority. He was thrown out of town. He was out on his ear. alienated big time. It was never going to work there. In the end, I think he was probably relieved to get out of there. This is where an absolute love affair began. A match made in heaven, a marriage made in heaven. Brian Clough and Nottingham Forest Football Club. Now this, for me, is an absolute football fairy tale and tells me so much about this guy, the environment that he had at this club and how perfect it was for him, how perfect he was for them. I mean, he went to Forest in 1975, right? Finished 13th in the second division, sorry, which is, like I say, is the championship now, right? Peter Taylor, didn't go to Forest with him, but he joined in there in 76. So a few months or a year after Clough had gone there, Taylor come and joined him. It's where it all changed. It's where it all changed. I mean, 1977, they finished third in the second division and get promoted. They didn't win the league, but they got promoted finishing third, right? Well, the next season, I put this like this again. It'll be like, say, West Brom coming up to the Premier League now and winning it in their first division. This is exactly what this team and these two guys produced and achieved. They went into the top division, the Old First division, and they took on the might of Liverpool and they toppled them. They won this first division, right? Not only that, you'd think, what an achievement. That's something we can live by that now. We can dine out on that forever. This guy weren't happy with that, mate. Fuck me, they went on to win the next two seasons. He won the League Cup as well that year, by the way. The next two seasons, this team that he brought up from the second division and worked them, him and Taylor. I'm going to mention Taylor because he is a big part of this. He's a massive part of this success. And like I say, I don't think he gets the credit. It's not all Clough, right? But he's the main dog. He's the big dog, the big boss, right? Not only did they get promoted from that division and win the top division the year after and the League Cup, the next two seasons, they go on to win 2 successive European Cups. That's the Champions League as we know it now. I mean, 1979, they beat Malmo in Munich 1-0. And they also won 1-0 in the Bernabeu in 1980 against Hamburg, I think it was. 2 years in a row to win 2 European Cups. 3 years earlier, you're in the second tier of English football and going nowhere. You're 13th. So if that doesn't tell you that this guy was special and what his vision was, and his ego carried him a long way. But what I find very important about this is, I heard Martin O'Neill say, we wanted to impress him. We just wanted to impress this manager. We just wanted to play well for him. It's all about getting good comments from him and praise. That went a long way. I'm telling you, because players don't win that just on ability. They win it because they want to run through a brick wall for their manager and a brick wall for that shirt and that club and the fans. These players, along with his genius, absolutely outdone themselves. And that is iconic. And I'll tell you what, you look at clubs like Arsenal, right? Who claim to be obviously they're one of the biggest clubs in this country, who claim to be one of the biggest clubs in Europe. They've only ever played in 1 European Cup final and didn't win it. This team, who was in mid-table of the second division a couple of years earlier, won 2 in a row. And let's get it right, back then, this was, when you say Champions League, now you can be a 4th best team in your country and be in it. This was only champions of every country. There was no second, there was no losers in this. These were fucking the top dogs of each country. That makes it even more special for me. It says so much about this manager, like I just said, right? Sadly, the usual, this team was broken up to capitalise on transfer fees and what have you. It happens. I mean, you've only got to look modern football. Like teams all over the world, they have a good season. The other teams come and pick players off. That happened here as well, sadly. So they didn't really go on. They didn't really go on to win the huge amount of trophies that I think they could have won with this team and the development of these two guys in charge of them. Sorry, It's pretty sad, really. I remember one of my memories of Cloughy as a youngster, I would have been 13 at the time, was the last game that he managed at the City Ground. Nottingham Forest got relegated in his final game, and I'm sure they was playing, I'm sure it was Sheffield United. I'm sure it was. In the comments, let me know if I'm wrong. I'm sure it was Sheffield United. I've not even looked this up, but I'm sure it was Sheffield United at the City Ground. They lost and they got relegated. I think it was 93. The only thing I can say about this guy, this is how you know that a guy is an absolute icon, an absolute legend at a club, and he can do no wrong, right? Because not only he got them relegated, what I saw on TV that day, I don't know if it was final score, it must have been final score on a Saturday, something like that, a grandstand or whatever. All I saw was Nottingham Forest fans singing his name, giving him a standing ovation, and absolutely worshipping him. This is after their own team had been relegated. So that tells me that this guy, like I said, was an absolute icon. But it actually also tells me that Nottingham Forest fans massively knew what a legend they had on their hands, and they appreciated everything he'd done for that club. And they was never going to forget that, no matter how low that they'd stumped now. Because at the end of, there's always a down. When there's times like he'd created at that club, there is always a come down. But those fans, from what I saw, they fucking stuck by him and treated him like an absolute hero. And I loved that. Even as a 13-year-old, I appreciated that. Because even back then, I was massively into my football and understood football in a big way. I massively appreciated that, and I loved that. And from that time, you realise that Forest fans are absolutely magic supporters. And it is a magical club. It's a magical club, magical ground. There's no negatives I can say about Nottingham Forest as a club. I don't think I've got any negative thoughts between them at all, about him, sorry. In later life, sadly, he struggled with alcoholism, as a lot of ex-footballers and stuff do, managers, whatever. He died in 2004, stomach cancer. He died. I've got to say, I watched what I loved. Just going off subject, I loved watching interviews and stuff with his son, Nigel, who played for him, and he obviously went on to manage at Burton, Derby, whatever. I loved watching videos about him because when you coach, sometimes you treat your son differently. He treated his son like any other player. And I think in professional football, especially when contracts are on offer and stuff, his son said he treated him exactly the same as any other player, but he was so harsh. Even he said, I used to have to really work hard just to get nice comments from my dad. I love that because he didn't sugarcoat everything. He stuck to his personality, and that's how he got the best out of people. And Nigel Clough was a very good player. He went to Liverpool, very good player. I liked him. If any other younger fans don't know much about Cloughy either, watch Damned United. It's set around when he went to Leeds, basically. That's a good film. And Sheen, I think it's Michael Sheen, he acts Cloughy really well. He does his accent and everything brilliant, right? But also, when you've got two teams who absolutely despise each other in Forest and Derby fans, I don't think they'll disagree. You despise each other, you're rivals. But for this guy to have a statue at Derby and also a statue in the centre of Nottingham City Centre, I've seen them both, I've been to both. I think that speaks volumes. The effect that you've had at these football clubs and these cities as a person, and the effect you've had on the cities, basically. Because a football club is such a big part of that community. It's probably the biggest part of the community of a football club. The effect this man had on both of them football clubs and the success that he brought to them, that could not be underestimated. I'm telling you, that is massive. And even the A52, the stretch of road between Nottingham and Derby, has been renamed Brian Clough Way. Says it all. Says it all. Unbelievable. Between two cities, clubs that despise each other, to have that road linking the two with your name, you've been at both clubs. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. But I'm not going to drone on. The only thing I would say, the last note and the last 3 words I'm going to say about this man, something we really lack in modern football, right? We really lack it now. And I think the youngsters really missed out on people like this, right? The three words are character, genius, and the most important one, legend. Thanks for watching, and Happy New Year to everyone. Take care.